absolutely thrilled to have two wonderful talents from the film Stolen, which is premiering at the BFI London Film Festival, actors Abhishek Banerjee and Shubham. So warm welcome to both of you and बहुत आपको बधाई हो Stolen के लिए.
Thank you so much.
Right. So we were literally just having an off the record chat, and I think the first reaction that I had after watching the film, which I just literally told you, Abhishek, was NH10, Anushka Sharma's film, where it again talks about urban characters really exploring the sort of suburban indie style of action that's taking place in the sort of heart of India. How did you react to the script when you were first approached with it?
Well, I think I was very impressed by Karan's idea, how he's like trying to see this film. And yes, that's the first question I asked him that doesn't it remind you of NH10 when there's already been a film where there are people chasing and how do you plan to make it differently? But then the way he, I think, had visualized the film in his head was very different from what NH10 is. And of course, I mean, if you've seen the film, so you would know that
Hmm.
it's not like NH10. It's a very fresh take. I mean, I think the only similarity is the mob mentality in NH10 and the
Hmm.
mob mentality in Stolen. I think that's the only similarity which I can, derive. Otherwise, it was a very fresh approach. Karan is, I think, I would like to call him a unique director who wants to create these hard-hitting films and but still make it in an entertaining way so that the audience is engaged throughout. And I somehow like that kind of storytelling more rather than making it preachy or trying to create drama through moral science.
Right. Shubham, I think for me, your performance was definitely, I mean, both of you were fabulous in the film, but I think it was wonderful to see किस तरह से आपने एक, एक moralistic character को निभाया था. For you to play such a character, because it must have been quite tough, emotionally, I think, for both of you, and I will get your perspective as well, Abhishek, but for you, Shubham, to really explore that side of things, how tough and emotionally challenging was it?
It was very tough for him because of course he's a man without morals. So so for him to
He answered the question.
okay.
No, I think my concern was first of all, I feel that there is Raman in all of us. Everyone wants to help other people. Is sometimes the situation where you decide whether to take a step forward or pull back. In fact, my concern was as an actor, because we have been working in films for so many years. Usually, when we write a moralistic character who's nice person, it's tend to become boring in the film.
Hmm.
uh, and my concern was that Raman can become boring because he's just nice and there is no layer to it. But after talking to Karan, when he started telling me how he will be shooting the film and how he will concentrate on the details of the relationship, that's where it became started becoming interesting for me. The relationships between two brothers and relationship between a stranger and Raman, that Jhumpa and Raman and Jhumpa and brother, and he's in the middle dealing with both of them, and Raman is the key where Gautam and Jhumpa in the last becomes like come to the same plane, and that's what became interesting for me.
Hmm. And I think when it comes to exploring characters from interiors of India or playing characters which have perhaps gone through a lot emotionally, and I think due to the system that we live in. I mean, of course, Hathora Tyagi, Abhishek, we did a huge interview about that when at the time of release. But again, here, when you are sort of stepping out and you're looking at a character that's almost looking in, into the sort of world that of what's going on, how much of a perspective did that really evoke for you? I think playing the role that you did, obviously comparatively to maybe what you did in Patal Lok some years ago.
Well, I mean, I think that the poles apart. I think
Of course.
Vishal Devi comes from a very small rural town in India, MP, Chitrakoot, to be precise. And Gautam is from Delhi. He's like the confident Delhi boy who is very comfortable in his life and very set in his patterns and rules. of probably profession and personal. So he's living a very privileged and happy life, and that's just not happy, probably comfortable life. And I think the most difficult situation, as he said, that everybody has a Raman. I would say that everybody also has a Gautam. So you don't really want to react to a situation. You don't want to give your helping hand so easily because you are set in your comfort zones. And to break that bubble, to
Mm,
break that bubble through a situation and to realize probably there are things which are out of your control, and sometimes you need to just stand in a situation, even if you're not really being a helping hand. If you can just be the support for the
mm,
people who need it, I think that much is enough. And to come to that journey, I think that was for me, even on a personal level, it really affects me till today. I still ask myself whether will I be able to do what Gautam did, or will I be able to think like Raman in a situation like that? Because when it's down and dirty, that's when the true, really colors of your character comes out, and it's still a confusion in my head. I think for me, Gautam started with a lot of surety in the film, but he ends at a lot of confusions, and probably from here on he will evolve, and that remains for me as a person also.
mhm. Now, Shubham, I think you've also worked on wonderful films, acclaimed films like Eve Aleu, which I thought was actually a really good film. I loved the way it sort of fused satire with entertainment there. But I think when it comes to movies like Stolen, which obviously are independent, they're not necessarily the sort of films which one would associate commercialism with, even though the landscape of commercialism has changed vastly in India now.
Of it is exciting, of course, and also the kind of films like Stolen or Ibaleu. I guess because India is a big market in films, you will also find versatility in India. Like it's not just Bollywood. In every part of India, people are making film nowadays. Especially, cameras have become small, cameras are cheaper now. Then people can afford to make films, and there are a lot of stories in India, and there are a lot of interesting stories in India. And then the other part comes of economics of these films. So there is one Bollywood, and then there is one section which is independent cinema. And I think that's why these festivals become very important to showcase your film there, because people need to see your film. There's no use of making a film and no one sees it.
Mm,
And also, I feel that for artists like, us and other artists, validation is important at one point.
yes.
Success is important at one point. So getting nominated or getting your film screened in Venice or BFI is actually a very valuable step towards your career. People will watch you, people will talk to you, then people will start listening to you, what do you want to say. And I think that's the important thing, that people start listening to you, what stories you want to tell, what kind of work you want to do. And I think that's the final thing which every artist wants.
Yeah. And I think that journey is something which I'm sure Abhishek you must really identify with a lot. Because obviously you've been a you are a casting director. In fact, you've casted for Dear Jussie as well, which is also premiering at the festival. Um, which is another very hard watch. But when it does come to the sort of journey you've had, of course you've done a lot of comical roles, but then I feel like again because Patal, because it was so intense and very just such a powerful role. Do you feel that really changed the way even people approach you as well as an actor as well now? And also as a direct casting director, how are you also able to imbibe your qualities as that within your craft?
Yeah, so I mean, thank God Patalok happened, because I was really worried about my acting career at that point, because I had just come out of three super hit comedy films, uh,
Mm,
three Dream Girl and Bala, and I was only getting calls for quirky characters. And everybody would call me and say that, oh, there's a quirky role, and there's this quirky character, and we want you to be a part of it. And I did not know where to go, because I was like, oh God, like probably I would never be able to play, characters which I like, because the industry is going to slap me in a comedy actor's space. But Patal Lok changed that. I think people realized that okay, he's much more than comedy. I had done Ajji, which premiered at Busan, before I did Stree.
Hmm.
So of course, people forget very easily, in our industry. So and also Ajji didn't have too many public eyeballs. It was more of an indie film.
Hmm.
Uh, so for me, it was very essential that directors take note of that. That okay, we can trust him with other characters, and that happened after Patal Lok. People actually came to me with different, varied characters and parts, which even I would take a second to imagine myself as. And also, as a casting director, it helps me to probably trust the director and trust the makers to imagine me or reimagine me the way they want. Because I think I know that I will always have an illusion about myself when I'm looking at myself in the mirror, or when I'm thinking that, okay, I can do this or do that. But some stranger might just come to me and think of me as a different personality in his head. And that is the personality I want to work with. I want to work with people who think of me
Hmm.
as differently as possible. And that's been happening, and I hope that continues to happen.
Right. Now, internal conflicts is something which I think, or the word duvidha, which I've used quite a few times in my interviews, I think that's something which is very apparent in Stolen as well, whether it is with any of your characters or even Jhumpa's character as well. Uh, how do you in life deal with conflict? What helps you to deal with internal conflicts, especially when it comes to making a decision or taking a certain harsh step as well when necessary. Shubham?
I don't know how to answer it because I think every दुविधा, every situation where you know दुविधा जब आती है तो वो उस situation से ही depend करता है what is the way out और कैसे deal करना है. So I think it depends on the situation and every time it's unique. Every time the problem is unique. Every time there has to be a new way to deal with it, and that happens in Stolen. And I always say to my teammates in Stolen that it's not necessarily that if the situation is different, Raman will help.
Hmm.
It's also about that particular time, particular situation, also his relationship with brother. So all other things also play in your mind when you are dealing with a conflict or complexities. And relationships are complex in India. Families are complex. Like not just in India, I feel everywhere.
Generally. Hmm.
Yeah. So everybody knows that there is no particular way to deal with these things. It just happens and it just you react. I think the main thing is just to be aware of what's happening with you
Hmm.
and
What
why is
about,
it happening.
yeah, for sure. What about you, Abhishek? I would love to know your thoughts on that.
Conflicts, dealing with conflicts, you
Yeah,
mean?
internal conflicts especially.
Just let be. I just let time. Sometimes, time tells you how to probably react. And I think time and space is very important for an actor and as a human too. You need to know when is the right time to react, and you also need to understand your surroundings. Because I mean, surroundings is not only a space as in a relationship, work, whatever. I sometimes let things be. If it's a conflicting situation, I let it be and then see what comes out of it. And most of the times, the problems which you think are important, uh, in the future, it becomes less
Hmm.
important. And one day you will even forget about those conflicts. So I think it's important to use your present the way it's important to basically protect your present and not get involved in a
Yeah.
situation which can carry forward in your future.
I think one line of Toni Morrison from the novel Jazz really helps me when I'm really stuck in a situation. And that line is, what's the world for if you can't make it your own?
Wow.
Okay. Wow.
That's always helps me. I always in crisis think about that line.
What's
Hmm.
the film?
But I was earlier talking about the importance of film festivals like these. But I would love to maybe discuss the prospects of indie films reaching the mainstream Hindi markets now. Because I feel, like I said, because of the OTT boom that's happened, I feel like audiences have awakened to all kinds of cinema. I think for a while it used to be a lot of mainstream Hindi films, and I think social comedies as well, which Abhishek you've been a part of, which also really did attract audiences. But now I feel that's changed a lot. But what do you think can really help or give confidence to filmmakers to really reach out their independent movies to the mainstream now? What do you think will also give even exhibitors and producers that strength to back these films, Abhishek?
I think the producers and the exhibitors need to back indie films. It's not really happening. I mean, that's the kind of bubble we are in. We see some work on some OTT platforms, and we feel that, oh, see, there's a new wave of cinema or shows happening in India, but that's not true. It's still very much dependent on the kind of faces you have. It's very much dependent on the kind of scale you have. People have prejudice towards independent cinema. It's not accepted as commercial cinema, and these are things which you are still fighting for. And every time we are proud about a film, competing or showcasing the world, yes, everybody would like to pat your back, but how many would want to put in money? How many would want to actually uh, take the film or take whatever you're making and show it to the audience? That's a very less number we're dealing with. So there's a lot of change which we really need. I mean, yes, there is some change, but there's a long way to.
I'm going to pick your brains a bit on that. Why do you think that is the case? I mean, we literally come from a country which has given us tremendous filmmakers, like, of course, Satyajit Ray, I mean, of course, who's been a pioneer of that. But why do you think there is this reluctance in accepting independent films in India?
But also, we are forgetting that films also include market. And the problem with market is, and there's a pattern. When OTT came to India, they came with a promise of uh, getting voices from all over the world and new voices, new filmmakers. And it happened initially. Actually, we saw really nice films and web series initially when OTT came. But then there's a pattern of, okay, what is, because they are working on graphs, what is working for the audience, then they pick the graph, they pick the point, oh, violence is working, sex is working, drugs is working, then all the other things get sidelined, and
Yeah,
then they keep producing the same thing. It's like a factory. keep
true.
produ-
Yeah.
Keep producing the same thing in different faces, keep producing it violence, keep producing sex, keep producing drugs. And the moment someone comes with a new voice, they are scared because they don't know what market will
Mm,
react to it. Unless and until one thing gets hit, then they will make 50 copies of it. And
mm,
that's the problem. People not taking risk.
It's
mm,
like we get this quite often, I feel, that, oh, audience will not like and that's such a how do you put it, that's a very shabby response to any kind of film or any project, because I mean, one person sitting in a corporate office in the AC rooms, I think they don't know anything about public or public opinion. That is something which you are uh, you are training yourself from what you hear around, and
mm,
probably social media. You have no sense. When I don't think people can really have any sense of what the audience really needs till the time we experiment, till the time we feed them something new, and only then we will come to know. Okay, so we need people who can take risks. If as actors we can, if as as creators we can take risks, believing in new filmmakers, believing in new fresh scripts, I think that's it's time that even producers and probably platforms or studios, they also start doing that. And that when that happens, probably then you will see a huge new wave of Indian cinema, which will be probably, which will get probably bigger global limelight than what it is receiving right now.
mm. Yeah, Shubham, you were going to add something?
No, I was just adding that also. I think from last few years, I've been not because I'm also a writer, and
Mm,
I've been writing for OTTs also. And those meetings gave me an insight that, I've realized that people in OTT and otherwise also, people have started self-censoring themselves, because nowadays the political and social scenario all over the world is like that all the government or people are going extreme,
mm,
either this side and this side, and people are scared.
yeah.
They are self-censoring themselves. So a lot of script get filters in initial stage only. we can't do this, we can't do this, or it might offend people, it might offend this person, or it might offend this government. And by that, we are always filtering the scripts in initial level. The filmmaking gets filtered. There's censored in every step, and final product is very safe,
Hmm.
and which is not so exciting. And it's history, like we know historically that artists or artwork are exciting where people have taken risk and not censored themselves.
Yeah, films can't become Instagram filters, as simple as that.
Very true. But then I also do think that it's also a balance, isn't it? Like, because I feel like when you're making a film like Stolen, which of course shows huge flaws within the system and a corrupt sort of business that runs, in the interiors of India, which many of us might not even be familiar with. But at the same time, it's also making sure it doesn't also look down at India with a very patronizing gaze for the sake of art and for the sake of Western validation, isn't it? So I think it's also a balance, which I think what Stolen does really well, in my opinion, is that it kind of makes the art very reflective of times without necessarily delving too much and making a very harsh statements against the country, if you get what I mean. But we've had films like that in the past which have done that. So I think again, it's about a balance, Abhishek. Would you agree with that?
Of course, and I think that's what we need to probably. I think Stolen, for me, is a very human Indian story. It's like, I mean, that's like, it's like three humans of India and different Indias. I
Yeah.
mean, there's this thing about, oh, there are two Indias we're living in. I think there are multiple Indias. It's a multicultural country, and of course, the class and the psyche of people, it varies from where you come from, and what kind of hardships are you dealing with, and everybody's dealing with something or the other. I think Stolen focuses on three people coming from different sets of life, and how one situation, one crisis impacts all three of them equally. If not, I don't know, I don't know uh, uh, how to gauge the how to gauge who is getting affected more. I think all of them get equally affected, and that is what I think the main crux of the movie was.
Mm.
And you're absolutely right. It's a point to think that how the world sees us and what films we are making, what are we projecting to the outer world or the world within ourselves. Because
Mm.
I remember my first concern in the film was two things, that the gaze of the film, because there are also one female characters and two male characters coming from upper middle class helping a woman from a lower middle class economically, and then it shouldn't look like, oh, upper middle class are so educated and so
The
well
saviors.
morally good that they are helping a poor woman
Or
and she
basic
can't
two
help
men, or
themselves,
just
to
two men.
men. And that was my concern. And the other concern was that, two outsiders from city has come to village and village is barbaric, that people are like attacking them.
Mm.
But when I talked to Karan was actually aware of that, and his concerns were also the same. And he assured me that, don't worry, the way I'll shoot this film, it will not look like that. Totally respect him, because still in post production, his only focus was on Jhumpa, reshoot her. I want more close-ups. And also, and I was talking about this in Q&A tomorrow, that filmmakers have this tendency normally, whenever we come from a privileged class and whenever we are telling stories of people who are from economically low class,
Mm.
either we show workers in a comedy humorous way, okay, okay, see them, they are funny,
Mm.
or see them. And in both the cases, I feel that we snatch the dignity out of them,
Right.
because the more, and especially with women also, like a lot of male filmmakers are trying to make films about women, and they are failing because either they make them goddess or someone who is an alien in concept. Oh, she's perfect. No, people are not perfect. That doesn't mean you shouldn't be talking about women issues, but you
Yeah.
have to be really know about it. Has to be your preoccupation. It can't be a tick mark that I made a film about women. So
Mm.
I think that's a very delicate area. And I think Karan has done it. Like he has given dignity to Jhumpa in the film because the most number of layers in the film is of Jhumpa. She's hiding something, she's doing something, she's proactive, and compared to us, she has more layer. And I think that gives more dignity to Jhumpa
Hmm.
compared to us in the film.
I still consider myself as a common man. I think that's how I walk, talk, or behave in generally in life. I
Really?
think, yeah, I mean, haven't you seen that? So yeah, I mean, I think, but yes, it's true that because we have come from a certain class, we understand certain things about our society probably better than the privileged class. And I would also say that it's less of a hard work for me to understand the struggles because I've been through them. So when people talk about, oh, how did you get into this process and everything, I'm like, oh, I've seen people go through it. I've seen people dealing with these situations.
Hmm.
I like I've dealt with a situation like stolen where there were like a crowd trying to attack me and my wife after an accident. And yeah, I mean, and I had to like deal with them. And thank God there were like two passerbys who recognized me, and because it was in a very rural part of the country. And that day I realized that, oh, I'm not safe in my own country. And that happened. And I could not even keep my wife safe. And to feel that kind of helplessness in day-to-day's life, it really helps me as an actor. Because
Hmm.
I don't forget my struggles. I mean, no matter where I'm going to reach, I think I'll always remember what my dad did for me, or what my mom did for me, and how they really, put in all the hard work to raise me in a country like India, which is a difficult country. We don't thank our parents enough. I mean, we really think that it's all easy for them, but it's not. No, now when you are grown up, you realize that. So yes, I mean, and I really embrace that. I really embrace that struggle. I love that I've lived that. And probably through my work, I would like to voice out the struggles of our country or of our society more often.
Hmm. Beautiful. Uh, Shubham, anything to add?
Nothing to. He said everything.
And so what's happening now with the film? Is it just like going for its festival run, or is there anything like any
Very
plans?
important screening is happening in Mami in India, and
Oh,
first
nice.
time we're showing the film in India, so we are really excited.
Excited.
Let's see what happens.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's brilliant news. Well, congratulations to both of you on that. And it's been such a pleasure to have you on Filme Shilmy. And a huge congratulations on Stolen once again. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Anuj.
Anuj, thank
Thank
you.
you,
See
Anuj.
you. See
Thank you
you.
so much. All right. Bye bye.